dumpster fire burns wild. Chaos shenanigans at every corner. Sarcasm, a holy sermon in style. Dark chocolate, melted chaos warmer. Fighting this timeline with snark. Every soul welcome but no recorders. Baptized by laughter in the dark. We stand tall, sporting fake orders. In the church of glory rise. With chaos and shenanigans bright. Chocolate and sarcasm our rise. Together we light up the night.
Hey guys, it's Mo, and we have today for Friday, for 4th of July, and it landed on a Friday, which is awesome for us, and me being more of an indoor cat that doesn't like loud noises, we have for you the Nate Eaton interview with Lori, Vallow Daybell. Now, for those of you who don't know, Nate Eaton was from Idaho, East Idaho News, and he was kind of on the Lori Vallow Daybell sort of, story from the moment that the children were kind of listed as no one knew where they were missing. So he has been there from the beginning. Welcome, welcome, Denise. And Wolfram, thank you for doing your mod duties. I know there are a lot of people that are probably going to be on the replay crew because you have, I think, Verdict Watch with Baker and, well, 4th of July stuff out with your family, doing the fun stuff. But let's get into this. I have to say kudos and bravery to Nate Eaton for sitting so close to this absolute Looney Tune. But he did. And Hatchet Face herself is, going to come in just giggle smarmy pants, I'm sure.
Hi, Lori.
Why is she bringing files like this is a dissertation or, oh God, and the baby ponytail. Damn. But why is she bringing files like she's going to prove her life, story right? Or are those love letters to Chad? Ick.
How are you? Good. You ready?
Yeah. Are any of my people here? Oh, okay. Hi.
Good to see you.
Nate, such a pleasure.
Have a seat. And
Long time coming, huh?
it has been. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
So I want to start with Chad.
Okay.
You told me years ago.
Things that make you go, bleh. I'd rather not start with Chad. I love that she's like, I have my bestest, orange jumpsuit on. I've, inked my eyebrows in and the baby damn ponytail. Ma'am, if you're older than 3, don't wear it.
Today is my birthday.
Today is your birthday.
How old do you think that I am?
52.
Oh, how?
127. I don't care, ma'am. Again, you're a gross human being. I really don't care how old or how young you appear.
What'd you do?
I do my research.
You must know a lot.
Yes.
The girls are like, "Are you turning 25 in my pod?" And I was like, "No, I'm turning 25 plus 25 plus 2."
There you go. So
Do the math.
You told me years ago Chad was the best
Things that never happened for 800, Alex.
man you've ever met.
Chad is a very kind person, yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
So besides his spirituality, what else attracts you to Chad?
He's a wonderful person. Everyone who knows him knows that. You've never met him, right?
I haven't met him other than when we were in Hawaii.
I'm saying you never met him, talked to him, interacted with him, or...
No,
Yeah.
no. How often are you able to talk with him?
So we aren't really speaking.
By your own choice or just because it's not allowed from like prison to prison?
Yeah, like the way that the mail works here is very difficult.
I see.
So we're only allowed to get postcards. Like you can't send a letter to the jail itself. And so There's difficulties within that.
But you still love him.
If you know that, that is the world's smallest violin, because, oh, these star-crossed lovers can't talk. I mean, if it stops the world from getting another Elena, Chad, Mormon prawn story, I think that it's good for humanity.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've said you'll be exonerated, and he will too.
Absolutely, we will.
Will that be before he's executed?
Yes, Nate, before he's executed. You're well aware, I know that you are LDS as well as I am, right? And you're well aware that
Wasn't she excommunicated?
the three Nephites in 3 Nephi 28 were given the death penalty 7 times. They were arrested after Jesus personally translated them, okay? They were arrested, convicted, and given the death penalty 7 times. And where are they today?
I don't know.
They're still wandering the earth.
Yeah.
They didn't get executed.
So
They didn't get the death penalty.
Wait a minute. Okay, so, and again, not LDS. I'm the world's worst Christian, so wherever that puts me on the spectrum. Any hoozle, these Nephites are just hanging around like Jesus personally translated them, made sure they didn't get, but didn't allow them into heaven. Again, I don't understand the LDS faith, so maybe this is a tenet that I'm just unaware of, but Jesus saved them, but they're still wandering the earth. I mean, that kind of seems like a monkey's paw wish kind of thing, like, oh, I want to be beautiful forever, and you just live forever, slowly decaying. I don't know. But there you go. Lori's going to become a Nephite, whatever that might be.
And there's 220 people in this country who have been on death row and have been exonerated and gone home.
Do you think it'll be soon then?
I think it'll be in the Lord's time. I know that it will be in the Lord's time. And when you say the word soon, if you've ever watched The Chosen or...
I would just like to point out, now that she's called upon final form Jesus, let's get him a shout out. But I think that, and I don't try to speak for the Lord, mostly because I'm afraid of getting struck by lightning. But I don't think Jesus is going to take time out of his day to translate Lori and exonerate Chad.
The key-keeped scroll, thou glowing shrine of thirst traps, scams, and dollar signs. We chant in tones both grim and low, for virtue fled a long time ago. Kyrie eleison, Christe descendat, final form Jesus return in wrath. With six-pack glistening, sword in hand, he cometh swift to cleanse the land.
Now, Lori, I have no doubt that you believe that you have a really great, relationship with the Almighty, but I have a feeling Jesus and the Lord would like to be, well, Jesus and God would like to be left out of any conversations involving you, because I read this book. It was called Exodus. Yeah, that one. And this old guy went up to a mountain and he brought back these stone tablets, that said what, not to do. And one of those, chief amongst them, was to, not covet another person's wife, Chad, and also not red rum people. And I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you and Jesus aren't on like Christmas card letter list anymore, because you kind of did all the bad ones. You made yourself a false idol. You worshiped yourself. You red-rummed a lot of people. You cheated on your husband. I mean, I don't know, but it was like the greatest hits of all the sins, both venial and cardinal.
Or dealt with Jesus at all. You know that soon is a relative term, because 1,000 years are a day to him.
So does it bother you, though, that in Chad's trial, he blamed it on you and Alex?
So now that I know the judicial system, and now that I have been my own attorney and how things work, and I've said this before in an interview, it's so different what goes on behind the scenes in a high profile case. Okay, there's strategies going on, there's defenses going on, there's all these things going on that you wish, like, why can't we just go in and tell our side of the story?
Lori, and you were able to hear all that through the circus music in your head and the clanging monkey? Tick, 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 tick.
The attorneys are like, you can't do that. We have to come up with a defense, and we have to do this, and we have to do this.
And thank you so much, Atheist, and happy 4th, Mo, Mr. Mo, and Minions. They are going to go out to a friend, our best man in our wedding. They are going out to his house, and he's going to do all of the fireworks things. I have found, and I was never a big fireworks person, but I've found that I really don't like them anymore. No worries about if you totally love fireworks. I've just found I don't like the loud noises as much anymore, with kind of the hypersensitivity to a lot of things. But I like that people get to enjoy their Fourths no matter, any way they want. So however you want to spend your 4th, I will be fine. If you guys all want to, light off M80s, it is totally okay. I am just no longer like the biggest fan of it. But I like the pretty colors, and things like that. It's just the noise.
This and like, why don't we just go? Why isn't it, you thought, like, if you've never been in the judicial system, which I hadn't before, you thought they get to tell their side of the story, what they think happened, you get to go in and tell your side of the story of what happened, and then the jury gets to decide. And that's not what happened.
I will say, in as much as Lori is actually really correct here, there are a lot of ins and outs, and I am by no means an expert. I am a layperson. I like watching trials. But there is a sort of naivety that you have when you first start getting into either watching trials or you yourself have to go through the judicial system. It's a lot more procedural. It has its own language. There are, a lot of trial is determined in motions in limine and things that happen before you even get to court. And I do think, for myself, I'll fully admit my naivete about, prosecutors bringing cases that maybe aren't as fulsome as they should be. I kind of started thinking, oh my goodness, a prosecutor would never bring a case for political or, that kind of reason. So I actually agree with Lori. It is, the fireworks will be lit just because it is a day I've agreed with Lori. But I do think there is a lot of naivete about how the judicial system works because it is a lot more procedural. And people don't get, if you just get into trials, that so much is done before in the pretrial hearings. What can be admitted? What is probative versus prejudicial? All of these things that kind of happen before the trial. So I actually agree with Lori for once, which is scaring the ever-living giblets out of me.
Happens. That's not what happens at all. And it's so sad and disappointing that's...
So you think, Chad, they had to come up with a defense just to have one in court? You don't think he really believed or blamed all of this on you and Alex?
Absolutely. And I know that for a fact because John Pryor came and told me that prior to trial.
He did. He said, this is going to be our defense.
He said, I'm going to blame you, and Chad doesn't want me to, and he wants you to know that. And this is the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees, that nobody knows what's going on. There's so much stuff going on that you wouldn't even believe all the things that go on. The experts that are being paid, the things that are going on. We got this expert, we paid him $1 million to say the opposite of whatever your expert's going to say. Like, what do you mean they paid him?
Okay, she does get this right. I do believe she's exaggerating in a self-aggrandizing way, again, as someone who believes she's going to be completely exonerated, which, you know what? If she's completely exonerated, I will make you all this solemn vow right now that I will totally and completely, if she's exonerated fully, if it comes out that it was all Alex, her boyfriend, brother, I will absolutely, say I was completely wrong while wearing my Lori Vallow wig. That being said, I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
The state paid an expert $1 million retainer to say whatever the opposite of what our state, what
In
our witness
Arizona or Idaho?
in Idaho was what our witness is going to say. And the attorneys told me this, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like,
You didn't have any witnesses.
we did. Yeah, in the buildup, we did.
But then
We absolutely
you didn't
did.
call them.
Well, there's reasons for that, that there's strategies involved, there's things going on, and you have no control when you have attorneys.
And that's
They're
why-
doing it how
That is not true. Now, the defendant does have a right to sort of have a say in some of the strategery that goes on. Now, that being said, how to actually bring witnesses, when to bring witnesses, what witnesses will be brought in, that's more of a lawyer's purview. But the way she is shading this, and again, it's sort of she is painting herself as this poor, forlorn person who everything was done to. If you notice everything that she said, it's been other people kind of pulling puppet strings, and she, this poor Pollyanna, who'd never learned about, civics, is over here just being bamboozled. I don't personally, and I'm not a psychologist, but Lori is very controlling. She's very type A, in my opinion. She, wanted to be her own attorney. So I have very serious doubts that anything happened the way she says, that, she wasn't able to voice her opinion. I see her as a slightly more polite Sarah Boone in that respect.
they want to
And that's
do
why
it.
you wanted to be your own attorney.
There's several reasons. The number one reason was because they wanted me to sit here for 5 years while they got to know the case. And I wanted a speedy trial.
Can we go back to Hawaii? When I first met you and Chad,
And we didn't meet. You just put a microphone in my face.
And Michael, I will say that we have not on the Petty Express gotten to the Boudreaux case. I do wonder about the Boudreaux case, especially since Melanie, whatever her last name is now, wasn't, put in as a co-conspirator. So that one I do think might be more flimsy grounds. And I did read her appeal, and I will say the only thing that, in my personal opinion, the appeal might be appealable is if this disgraced CSI person who was fired for poor work did collect the samples, there may be something that's appealable there. All of the samples that were taken from Mr. Boudreaux's Jeep or car, those were all collected by a CSI person who was later fired or resigned for poor performance. Now, that being said, I do think that had she, swallowed her pride just a little bit and gotten lawyers, that case might have been different. That being said, I think she's guilty as sin.
okay, when I put
Now
my-
we've met.
we have met, you're right. Why didn't you just tell me where the
Also notice, and I do wonder if there will be a female that interviews her, but notice the flirtatious, the leaning in, the kind of sort of behavior that she displays to men. It does seem like she is a woman who is very, accustomed to using her looks and charm to sort of bamboozle men, to put the wool over their eyes, that she's a very biddable, submissive, kind of genial Disney princess voice. But I do wonder if she would have the same energy with a woman who didn't play ball with her, that asked her the hard questions. I think you would see the real Lori if you had a very, down to earth, but no nonsense woman talking to her.
kids were?
Because I was not ready to talk about it at all at that point. I was just not ready. It was very traumatic, and I was not ready for any of that.
Are you ready to talk now?
Oh, well, I'm so sorry that your kids that you put, beyond or in heaven, it was traumatic for you. Let me just look. Let me get my hair things out. Let me just look here, because I'm looking for one, and I have yet not to find one damn to give that you're upset and traumatized, about the children. Mary Lou, I haven't seen the whole interview yet, but there are very few things that really get me very, very upset, but monsters who want to get sympathy for themselves piss me off. So I'm sure we'll get to that part, but absolutely, I give no craps that you are traumatized, ma'am. And for anyone who had to sit through how they found Tylie, again, I think we have a place where we can send you. I believe we have, if you didn't want to sit in Arizona for so long, we do have someone that can help you, because justice is a journey, but at the end, Lord Chippy awaits.
They're our skin, they steal our grace. These monsters wear a human face. No gavel, no badge, no throne, no crown can stop Lord Chippy from burning them down. Justice ain't fast, justice ain't clean. It's a long, sharp road through the in-between. So raise your fists and light your flames. Chippy's coming and he don't play games.
Lord Chippy is willing, ready, and waiting in Minecraft and allegedly. Does she have any consciousness of being a monster? I think in order to even be able to project the sort of flirty and sort of above it persona that she has, there is a small, very small and deeply buried part of her that knows exactly what she's done. But if she were to really take a good look at this, and I feel the same way for Sarah Boone, I think she would have a mental breakdown. I think it would cause physical pain, not only mental pain, for her to have to sit down and take all the layers of denial and translatedness and justification and really look at what she did. I think it would break her. I think she would have a breakdown. And I think that's maybe what we saw when she was found not competent earlier on, that, she was coming to terms, and instead of actually taking a look at it and sitting in the devastation and evil and pain that she's caused, she's gone back to sort of this deluded, Jesus is going to save us. But I think a small part of her does know this, but I think it would physically be painful. And I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how you get someone to look at the things that they've done in reality without justification. But I do feel that it would be, it would cause a schism in her psyche, I think.
Now?
I have talked about it already, yeah. I feel like a lot of things have happened in these last 5.5 years to give me strength through that tragedy that happened with my children. And
that tragedy, it wasn't like they were abducted by a cartel. They were taken by your brother to their final resting place on Chad's property. You robbed JJ of breath, and what was done to Tylie should end you up in the darkest circles of Dante's Inferno. But you want to sit here and you want us to be sorry for you, baby ponytail, Tim, you Barbie lawyer? You can screw yourself sideways with a cactus, ma'am, because that ain't happening. And when and where is Will Smith when you need him? Keep the kid's name out your mouth, ma'am.
I've been a lot more open in being able to talk about it now, and through therapy also, like some post-traumatic stress therapy, because it's traumatic. And I'm living in here with some beautiful, intelligent, smart women. And had I never come to Arizona...
Oh my God, Nate Eaton's face is my soul right now. Like, what the hell is this woman talking about? what in the hell is this woman babbling about? His face is my soul right now. And I will say Nate has been tenacious. He has kept these children and Tammy and Charles, you know, alive for us during these 5 long years. And he has done yeoman's work. And I'm just really, really impressed with all that he's done, especially from the beginning. And I think Nate was every single one of us when he got irritated with Lori in Hawaii, and he got that tone right back when she said, "That's nice." And he's like, "Oh, really? Your kids are missing and all you can say is that's nice? That people are praying for their safe return?" So I have tremendous respect for Nate because he has really done from the beginning, you know, getting the story out. I think my first sort of contact with the Lori Vallow Daybell shenanigans was through Nate. So I am just in awe with all that he's done, you know, for this. And then the Koberger case, he has been on top of it and just awesome.
And I know God put me here for a purpose because I didn't think Arizona was going to come get me. In
bitch.
fact, I think you and I had a talk about that because there was an article that came out in Idaho saying that Arizona was not going to come and extradite me until all my appeals were finished. Do you remember that? And I think, and then my
It's
appeals.
like the next day that you were gone.
Yeah, the next day they came and got me. And my appeals attorney was supposed to come, he had an appointment that day when they came to get me to drive down from Boise to Pocatello for us to have a meeting. And they didn't even tell him I was gone. Like, I was just gone that day. They came the next day. So I didn't think they were coming.
You mentioned a tragedy, and you said that this has all been a family tragedy.
Yes,
And it has been a huge tragedy.
absolutely.
All of this.
Absolutely.
4 juries have said you and Chad and Alex caused the tragedy.
Yeah, that's the judicial system.
But how do you argue?
Okay, so wait. You're saying that the judicial system is so foobar that again, Lori, to make this make sense, you would have to imagine that the judicial system that you say is foobar were able to all come together, different jurisdictions, different cases, and screw you over. Like they all had a meeting. Lori, is this microphone on? Let me shout it from the hills. No one cares about you enough to conspiratize against you. We only care in the fact that you are a monster and you're going away for a long, long time and we will never have to see you again.
With that, if all of this evidence came out that showed, you know, that you, Chad...
The only evidence that ever came out is the evidence state wanted to put forth.
Well,
They manipulate the evidence to make it look however they want.
But you
And
could
guess who
present
helps
evidence.
them? The media helps them because from day one, when someone called you, okay, day one, whether it was Detective Hope or Detective Hermosillo, I'm not sure, called you and said, "Hey, Nate Eaton."
Ma'am, I know you don't want to get the chicken turkey neck. I know you're of an age where it's bothering you immensely that you don't have access to all your beauty products to help with turkey neck. But talking like Bev just means that your nostrils are showing. So, I mean, between turkey neck and nostrils and seeing your potential boogies, I'm kind of okay with seeing your turkey neck. But there you go. I mean,
This is going to be the biggest story of your life. And they got that information from Heather Daybell. And Heather Daybell and Detective Hoper are connected, right? Because their kids got married. And they called and she said, "Oh, I have a story for you. These people killed their spouses so they could get married," which was totally a rumor.
I don't think
totally
that's true, Lori.
untrue. And then you ran with it. And you got famous from it. And everybody knows what happened from
okay, so let me get this straight, Lori, because I'm trying to logic this out because I like logic. Sometimes it helps me make things together. All right, so you're saying that not only the judicial system, but now the media, the shadowy media, got together in a room and were like, "Hey, you know, them 2 people got married really close after their spouses kicked the bucket. We should make this a story. You know, I think that would be great. We have nothing to do in particular. Sure. okay, ma'am, he didn't get famous. He got famous because we all wanted to know where your children were. He didn't go out and, try to sell Bitcoins or cryptocurrency or anything. And if anything, I've seen Nate be humble and, just a human being.
From there, right? So that's the way it goes. So the media put out their narrative. They kept on with it. The state went along with it. The state leaked stuff to the media to say what they wanted.
What's false about the narrative?
Oh my gosh, everything.
Your children were found dead in Chad's backyard. That's not wrong.
That's
Tylie was chopped up and burned. That's not wrong.
No, that's all mixed up. That wasn't.
I saw photos of JJ wrapped in plastic and duct tape. That wasn't wrong.
Okay, I understand what you're saying of those facts. Those facts in and of themselves are wrapped around a whole lot of untruth.
About how they ended up there.
Correct.
So if Tylie killed JJ and then felt bad and committed suicide, how did she die first?
She didn't.
She didn't?
That's part of their whole fake narrative. That's
Who burned her and chopped her up?
That's part of everything that they were doing. So I don't really want to get into all of those details with you because you obviously are very set in your mind. I'm not here to change people's minds.
No, you're not. No, you're not. And here's the fact. Most mothers, and it breaks my heart that he had to put out the way Tylie was found. Most mothers, when hearing that the child they birthed, the child that they held in their hands as soon as they, came out, they were dismembered and burned and put near an animal cemetery. Most have you touch your heart, or you kind of do a self-soothe because the thought is so incredibly heartbreaking that it almost stops you and steals your breath. But Lori's like, it's all a lie. Let me tell you, I know all the facts. Okay, Miss Chicken Neck, how about you shut the hell up? I mean, again, she does not perceive how absolutely out of left field her behavior is. She has no lens to understand how she is perceived by other people. It is absolutely and completely ridiculous. The fact that the thought, again, doesn't take her breath away. She doesn't stop and say it was horrific. However, the facts may have been exaggerated, that is horrific. No, she's like, it's all a lie. Tylie did it. Tylie done everything.
I want you to change my mind. I'd love to hear any evidence or facts you have that might make me think, you know what, they have it wrong, but I haven't heard anything otherwise.
That's because you've been pushing this narrative for 5.5 years. You're not telling me that your mind is not set on what it is already?
Minds can change.
They could change
Right.
if they're open to change.
Right.
Okay, so miracles are on the way. And you remember I asked you to watch a movie?
Yes, Evan Almighty.
Jesus.
I did. And did you watch that movie?
What in the name of all that is holy, unholy, where in the Carmen Sandiego is she going with Evan Almighty?
I did.
And did you identify yourself with the reporter in that movie?
I don't know if I identified myself with, did you identify him with me?
Yes, absolutely.
So what does that mean?
Okay, so when did the reporter change his mind?
Remind me.
When he was floating in the flood on the ark. Okay, not until God showed the miracle did his mind change. His mind was like, this is a crazy guy. He thinks he's like Noah. Why are you so crazy? He's pushing the narrative, right? He pushed the narrative. And then
Lori, the problem is that he wasn't pushing a narrative. He was reporting facts. Most news stations are going to be very careful because if they push a false narrative, their currency is the ability for the, watchers to trust and believe what they say. Now, I'm not saying that news doesn't have a slant or doesn't have a way that they shade or possibly, ideological things that mean that they want to cover one story versus another. But he reported facts. So facts are not a narrative. facts are the facts. So unless you can give us a competing reason as to why this happened, you can spout about narrative all the time, but it's not going to change facts.
Then the flood came, and he's the first one screaming, and he's running for the ark because he had been pushing this narrative the whole time, right? This fake, false narrative that this guy was crazy, that God didn't talk to him, that all these things have happened, right? That these weren't God things that happened, okay? So then he's the first one to get on there screaming, and when he's floating down the river on the flood, is when his mind was changed. So when you're open to changing your mind, I will be happy to enlighten you to the things of God.
Oh my God. No, again, I don't remember when God elected you his DJ hype man. So maybe it's, part of the chapters in the Book of Mormon I haven't read yet. Very possible, since I haven't read the book. There's maybe a scripture, and then there shall come Lori, God's hype and spokesperson, move over Metatron. But ma'am, I don't know where you picked up the chicken neck thing, but it is annoying the ever-living hell out of me. Again, to live in a world where you can do all the heinous and ridiculous things that she has done and still feel like you yourself are the anointed and pious one.
Well, I would love to hear what
sure
you
you
have to
would.
say. I wish we had more than 30
I wish
minutes.
we had more time too, because
Okay.
we could really get into it.
A couple of more questions for you, and then I know that you have some things you want to say. The night before Alex died, he told Zulema, "I think I'm their fall guy." Was he?
No, absolutely not. And I don't think he ever said that. I watched Zulema go through probably 13, 14, 15 hours of detectives grilling her. I've watched the interviews. I've watched them all. And I watched her be berated by them, threatened by them, that they're going to arrest her, that she had a part in this, that she's a co-conspirator, and all this stuff until they got her to say exactly what they wanted her to say. And she made that up. She made up a lot of stuff. And I felt bad for her because I didn't want her arrested, because she wasn't part of any conspiracy, because there wasn't any conspiracy. And I felt really bad for her. I do love Zulema.
Did you and Chad have anything to do with Alex's death?
No, absolutely not. We were very surprised. No.
What were you and Chad and Alex doing in the storage unit, moving the tire and the seat back and forth on the day that Brandon was shot at and the day after?
So that's so silly that is. So there was stuff in my garage that I was starting to move into the storage unit. That's what we were doing. And so I moved that stuff in there.
But the tire on the Jeep?
I moved stuff that had been in there, just sitting in there. It had been sitting in there. So I didn't have enough room to park.
So you just had a random tire in your front room? Like, look, y'all, if I put some cardboard or some, that particle board on top of it, it's a coffee table. Sure. I believe that.
Park. So I couldn't carry it. It was heavy. So I had Chad help me put it in. And the next day, Alex was like, "Where's all that stuff in the garage?" And I was like, "I went and put it in the storage unit." He was like, "Oh, I need that." So we went and got it. And that was it.
Can you see how, let's say you're not here. Let's say you're at home and you find out about this story and you do all your research. You go through all the court documents. You watch the trial. And you're watching another woman going through exactly what you're going through. Can you see how it sounds kind of crazy what you're saying? Like the fact that this was all a coincidence, or you were just moving stuff in and out?
Yeah, because the narrative has trained the people.
But
The
if you
narrative
did
has
your
trained
own
the people.
research,
The narrative has trained the people. I have people come up to me all the time in the jail. "I know everything about your case. I've watched everything." And they have every fact wrong.
but aren't you in isolation? Are you able to talk with other inmates?
Yeah, you have no idea what it's like in there. Okay, I'm in max security. I'm in PC, which I didn't choose to be, but they put me in there for safety reasons.
Tell me what PC means.
So, protection.
Okay.
Yeah. You have
Protective
to-
custody.
Protective custody, yes.
Okay.
And so I'm in a max pod with all the other women that are max. So there's like 8 women in my pod that are facing the death penalty. Okay, we're all in rooms in there, and we are all in there 23 hours a day, and we get 1 hour out a day to take a shower and clean our rooms, and that's how it is in there. But all of our doors have openings so we can talk to each other even through the doors, and so yeah, so I'm not isolated. But when I am transported to court, like for my 2 trials, right, I'm with the women all day long that don't normally see me, so I'm friends with everybody in my pod. But other women will shout out to me that, "Oh, I know everything about you. I know everything about your story." And they've been so indoctrinated by the media.
The irony. Where is Alanis Morissette? The irony of someone who indoctrinated herself into believing that she is a translated being, railing against other people who are indoctrinated by the narrative. Now, pot kettle. Again, let she in not a glass house and not a murderess throw the first stone.
Yeah, and their narrative that they put out. And nobody was asking me what's happening. Nobody asked Chad
I tried
what was
to.
happening. Well, would you have listened then? You have to.
Absolutely. I wish you
You
and
need to be on the boat, Nate. Are you on the boat yet? Because when you're on the boat, Nate,
Oh my God, if Lori's on the boat, jump off. Take your chances in the flood. At least that's what I would do. I'd put on my water wings, jump. If Lori's on a boat, I'm getting the hell off. Because that's probably the Titanic, and she is the iceberg and the fiddler.
I am going to be happy to share all this stuff with you because miracles are on the way.
I wanted to
Miracles are on the way. And when you're on the boat, that's why I sent you that last
video.
message. Well, I sent you the last message saying, when you're on the boat, you'll be ready.
So
When you're on the boat.
you say Jesus is your friend.
Absolutely.
So what Lori is essentially saying is if Nate has a, modern lobotomy and takes out his prefrontal cortex and all of his logic, he would believe her story. I totally agree that if you lack the ability to logic, you will believe Lori.
Absolutely.
Does he support cheating on your spouse?
We weren't cheating.
Does he support killing your husband?
I didn't kill anybody ever.
Killing your kids?
I didn't kill anybody.
Killing
as you
your
know.
boyfriend's wife?
Okay. Was I in Hawaii when Tammy died? How did I kill her? Are you going to explain that to the world now? How did I do that?
Using your kids' money while they're dead.
Okay, all that is messed up too.
How
That's
did
all
you
lies.
how did you rent that unit in Hawaii? With
That's
what
all
money?
lies. Chad rented it. I did not
Chad
rent
didn't
it.
have any money until Tammy died.
Chad rented it with his own money.
Okay.
Chad was an author and a publisher and had his own company.
I am so tempted. If anyone knows where I could get Chad's Mormon Left Behind books, I am really tempted to read them, though I think I would need to be, I'd need to be at least half an adult beverage in, but I think we could do it, y'all. I will say, oh, it's on Amazon. Oh my goodness. And Prime Day is coming up soon. I can get all of his books and we'll do a readathon, however painful it might be.
So
that's what I'm saying. You're
getting $30,000 a year. With
No,
that
but you're
company.
giving up facts that you don't. You're giving up whatever the state put up. They don't put up the whole story, Nate.
And that's-
they just put up tiny pieces to put together their own narrative. That's it. You don't know anything about our lives or.
Well, from what I've gathered about what Chad wrote about, he wrote about sort of the coming tribulations that were more, I guess, related to kind of the LDS thoughts on what the sort of end times are going to be. I guess a lot of it happens in Idaho, but it is actually, that's what I gathered it kind of was. I could be very wrong. Again, I barely made it through Chad's Mormon prawn text messages without
how they were, or what we were doing in the temple.
Yours-
What we were doing in the temple every single day.
While you were in the temple, while Tammy was still alive, you were in the temple with Chad.
Several times, yes.
Right. So he's married to Tammy.
Correct. Tammy came to the temple with us too.
The three of you.
At some points, yes.
How many times?
Probably twice.
When is this narrative going to come out? When are you saying the full story is going to come out? Like your side, what really
So
happened?
I'm writing it, and I'm going to write out every single thing from beginning to end so that people.
Okay, y'all, I am of two minds of this. Part of me now, the one that loves the absurd and revels in sort of the degradation of everything and just plain chaos, is like, oh my God, Lori, write a book. I want to read it. It can be my baby ponytail behind bars. And the other part of me is, dear Lord, I want to give this woman no more attention. So I'm of two minds. I kind of want to, I want the S show that is Lori's book, but I also want her to get no more attention from anyone, because that's going to be the biggest worry, the biggest insult to her, is if she goes away in a cage and no one cares about her. We move on. We only remember Tylie, JJ, Charles, and Tammy, and we refuse to name and give them any more attention. I think that would hurt her more than, sadly, the death of her children. Because in her mind, she has bought into, again, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do think that the real truth of what happened, if she actually sat and looked at it, it would break her mentally. And she would have to rebuild the pieces of her psyche. So it is more comforting to her to believe that Jesus is going to miraculously come in and bring in all this exonerating evidence and prove that he's her bestest friend.
People can really understand, because you can't understand what happened with Tylie and JJ unless you understand what happened to Tylie in her life. You have to know Tylie's whole story from beginning to end. And when you know what happened in Tylie's life,
Your daughter was dismembered and burnt after she was shot. How dare you be again, no real mother, and I call you an egg donor, but no real mother would be able to, again, say, like, from the beginning to the end. It's the same reason that people have a very hard time with Madeline Soto's mother. She refers to her daughter as the body. She, is constantly trying to make sure that Stephen is going to be safe. And this is pure speculation. Take it with 27 ramen noodle packets of sodium. But I think that there was a big rift between Tylie and her mother. I think that Lori likes to have everything presentable and look right. And I think she shamed the ever-living hell out of Tylie for not being her body type. I think that there was a lot of friction just because Tylie didn't look like the daughter Lori wanted. And maybe I'm projecting, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think Tylie didn't buy Lori's bullshit. She didn't buy into Lori's, this is what I say, this is how things are going to work. And I think when Chad came in and Tylie started disrespecting and not approving of Chad as their sort of family home godhead, she was taken out. But I think there's a lot of friction. And, I can say, as being a rather chonkular teen with a very athletic mom, it is something that comes up. And I think that Lori had a visceral dislike of how Tylie was overweight. I think that there was a lot of friction because Tylie was a teen girl and, didn't want to be told what to do, didn't want to live the way her mom lived. And unfortunately, sadly, and horrifyingly, when Chad and Lori got together, going against them was deadly. So that's not a narrative, Lori. That's a pattern. And there's a pattern of everyone who talked against you or rose up against Chad or were in your way, they all ended up dead. That's not a narrative. That's a pattern. Darlene Wesley, don't forget Joe Ryan. I think they might have red-rummed him too after she made his life miserable. Yeah, Darlene, I will say I haven't gotten into that because I know that's a very sensitive subject, and I know Colby hasn't told the story yet, and I know there's, views on both sides, but that's one of those things where I feel like if he would like to tell the story, if he has some revelation, then I would let him speak about that himself. That being said, I know that there is conjecture that Lori, used her influence. I think Lori is a very manipulative, controlling person, and she's been able to get away with it for the most part because she mostly interacts with men or women that are more subservient. That being said, when she found someone that would feed her ego and worship her and give her, these godlike aspirations, that's when it turned deadly and scary. When you got two people that are so into their own delusions, it's called a folie à deux, madness of two. It's not so much that the psychosis is sort of contractible. It's more that they feed each other's delusions. JKD Buck, I haven't gotten very deeply into the kids' lives. Again, I was so horrified by their end. And with Lori shading a lot of different things about her past, it doesn't seem like the true story has gotten out. I don't know what her diagnoses are. I don't know if she even had any diagnoses. I do know that she was found incompetent to assist in her own defense for a while. And I don't know whatever were the diagnoses behind that. Generally, I'll have to watch or listen to the trial. I will say that my heart was so broken about how they found the kids that I couldn't listen to the trial. Oh, I'll have to look at those. There are doctor reports to review. I'm waiting for him to come forward. He seems very strong. Yes, I do believe it was in the Idaho trials. Her trial, for a while, she was labeled as incompetent to help with her defense. I believe that's why Chad's trial went. But yeah, let's continue with her absolute babbling.
You start to understand. The understanding, the lights click on.
Oh, you mean like the fact that when her father passed, you in front of your daughter, again, I've lived this, all right? I had an ex who wasn't there to defend himself. And what I made sure of, even in all of my anger toward him, that no one in front of his daughters talked bad about their dad, as much as I could stop it. Now, I kind of practiced if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And I do feel bad that for a long time, I just didn't say anything about their dad because I didn't have anything nice to say. But to say in front of your daughter who's grieving her father that the world is better off that he wasn't there just shows a lack of the ability to understand other people's feelings. And welcome. I'll have to look at that. Like I said, I'm not a doctorologist. This is just basic stuff. I don't call myself an empath. I'm just an inside cat who likes to watch people a lot.
But nobody has said that. This lady got up in Idaho. It was 1 year after I had been arrested, and it was going to be Tylie's birthday. And there was a lady in Idaho Falls, and they were having some kind of vigil, and it was on the news because I was in a pod by myself at Madison County, right? And I'm watching the news, and this lady comes on, and she says, oh, it would have been Tylie's 18th birthday because she died 2 days before her 17th birthday. And she said, it would have been Tylie's 18th birthday today. And if Tylie were here, she would be out with her friends, and she would be singing and dancing, and she would be doing all these things. And this is a lady who has never met Tylie, never knew her.
Okay, so again, this is the disconnect. She is mad at this woman for taking the sympathy that should be hers rightly in her thoughts. Again, instead of seeing someone's honoring my child, someone is mourning my child. Someone is, trying to get that. Again, KDP, where is Will Smith when you need him? But her first thing is to anger and how dare they talk about, what is my property, my, daughter to get sympathy from. How dare they?
Never knew anything about her life or our life. And I was like, do you know how many of Tylie's birthdays we spent in the hospital with her screaming in pain while she's on morphine, and the morphine isn't enough to take away the pain.
Wait. Are you really blaming this all on Tylie?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying Tylie had a really hard life, and people don't
So
understand.
how does that tie into her death and your son's death and Charles being shot and Brandon being shot at and Tammy's death?
Okay,
Her
all
illness.
those things connected, right? It's a domino effect. So in 2017, I was told by the Lord that I was going to become like Job and lose everything. Will I do this job?
I have no words, you guys. I have absolutely no words. But let me tell you, Lori, let me explain why everyone kind of got onto this case. Because everyone was hoping that these children would be found. When I first got, clicked onto this case, I remember adding it to, again, world's worst Christian, but my prayers and saying, please, Lord, let these kids not be, red rummed. Let us find them. Maybe they're in, some kind of bunker. Maybe they put them on an FDLS, like compound. Maybe something like that happened, which would still be terrible. But dear Lord, let these kids be found safe. And the entire nation saw pictures of Tylie smiling and JJ and videos and different things like that. And we fell in love with these children. And we worried about these children because their mom seemed to give not a rat's ass about them. But most people worry about children. Just Job, again, ma'am, you are not Job. Sit the hell down.
If I lose everything. And so this domino effect of things happened. This is all the Lord's doing. And guess what? He's going to come forward and tell it all. And I don't have to.
Nate, I'm going to need you to scooch back just a little bit, sweetheart. You are in a plastic chair, but when she gets struck by lightning, I don't want little Lori chunks all over you. That looks like a cute t-shirt. What? None of her, again, if you notice her language and break it down, none of it has been about her children or mourning that or this is horrible. Again, she could have presented the whole Job story as, I'm going to have to lose everything that matters to me. I am going to have to lose my children in order to do what God said. And I struggled with that. Again, she could make it to where it would be yeah. Just like Daryl Brooks, apparently God did the murders here too. So he was busy between Waukesha and Idaho. He's been very busy.
But I am writing it all down for posterity. I am writing it all down because you know what he told me? You know what Jesus told me? He said, this is going to be...
No, you're writing everything down from your posterior. You're talking out your ass. And good Lord, this woman is annoying. This woman is everything that is wrong with a malignant, narcissistic woman. She is every dark quality that can come from the abuse of feminine power. And it is irritating. And again, you're not speaking for posterity. You are speaking from your posterior. Let's use English the way it was meant to.
Real good scripture reading in the future. So if you go back and you read the scriptures and you find all these stories that were going on, what do you think is going to happen? These are the last days, right? We believe that. You believe that, right?
When can I get a copy of this? Because I want to read it.
But you're going to, the whole world's going to get to read it. I'm working on it. I work on it every day. Jeff's like, what are you doing in there all day? It's like, I'm writing. It's coming to me. I'm writing.
When you...
All work and no play makes Lori a dull girl. Lori, I can imagine you writing something akin to what, Jack Nicholson wrote in The Shining. But I guess, they have said, that if you put a bunch of monkeys in with typewriters, eventually you'll get Shakespeare. So, I can't wait to read Lori, the addendum to the Bible, the Lori edition. It won't be NIV or, King James. It'll be the Vallow version. I'm waiting for it.
We're on trial in Idaho. Didn't you say that Jesus was going to be back before the end of that trial?
Okay, who said I said that?
I'm asking you, did you say
No,
that? You never
absolutely
said
not.
that.
I have never, Chad has never, we've never given a date or a time. The prophet,
July of 20, where's July?
Wait a minute. I thought that you had a direct line. Like it was like, Jesus was in your 5. If y'all remember when you had a 5 and texting was new. And if the person wasn't in your 5, you got in big trouble because the bill went cray cray. So Jesus is in your 5 and he's like, look, I'm going to take everything from you. You're going to be like Job. And she's like, well, could I have a day when like all of this ends? And he's like, look, YOLO, it'll happen when you don't know. Go read a scripture. You won't know, but it'll be great. Nate is so kind because my face would be doing, I just put you on the spot in front of chat. Yes, absolutely. I can do a stab you day. I will stay, like, have a wonderful 4th of July. I'll be hanging out in my house.
July 20th.
somebody made that up and put it on there. I have never said it. Chad has never said it. We've never had a date. We're going with what the prophet says. When President Nelson gets up and says, these are the last days, we need to prepare for the second coming.
Weren't y'all excommunicated because you were like dabbling in some insane, like not LDS sanctioned crap? Like, wasn't Alex excommunicated twice? Weren't you about to lose your temple recommend? And so Chad was also excommunicated for all of his strange beliefs. Baker, so take this with a pound of salt, but I think in LDS you have like a home. So the husband is supposed to be kind of the godhead of the home. And then you go to your local preacher or what have you. And then a bunch of ward. So it's like your ward pastor. So they call them ward. And then up above that is a stake president. And then at the top of the LDS church is the prophet, the current prophet, and he's called the president. But I could be really wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. But I believe it's more of kind of like a mayor, governor, and then president kind of thing. Sort of. I think. But there you go. Lori's going to tell us when the end times could be. So stock up on, toilet paper, y'all.
We need to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. That's what we were doing. That's what we were working on. And we wait for his timing. The Lord has his own time.
If there is an LDS member in the chat, isn't Israel in Israel? So why were y'all in Idaho? And I'm not trying to be a smart ass, but Israel is in Israel, isn't it? So why aren't you guys going to the Holy Land? Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't think that Tammy ever knew anything. I am going to be honest. Tammy probably went to bed the night Chad, convictedly or adjudicatedly, took her life. But I think at that moment, up until the moment she passed, she thought she was in a loving relationship with her husband. I don't think she had any clue. I believe most jurisdictions, I will have to look up whether Idaho has a sort of, sometimes they call it a slayer law, or like New York has the son of Sam, but typically there are mechanisms in each jurisdiction so that, gross people can't profit off their crime.
Timing. He's never early. He's never late.
Why has
His
Chad been
timing
excommunicated?
is great.
So God is like Gandalf? Okay. A wizard is never late. He arrives exactly when he intends to.
I think that was false too. That was mean. That was mean.
To excommunicate him?
Absolutely.
Are you still a member?
As far as I know.
Okay. So Lori, if you could go back 6 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
June of 2019.
Okay.
Would you change anything that's happened over the past 6 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Nate.
You absolute jackass. Again, horse teeth, braying donkey. The last 6 years, what most normal people would say is, I want my children back. I want my children back. I want them back. I want to be able to hug them. I want them in my life. She's gonna, the Lord works in mysterious ways and that kind of jazz. Oh, we are all mad here. Tammy emailed Charles. Oh, okay. Well, I was hoping that maybe for a small comfort that maybe she thought everything was fine, and didn't have the worry of her husband cheating, because that's a great big betrayal, as well as, taking her life. But I was hoping maybe, yes, Baker, I quoted the Walking trilogy.
I don't think I could, because
could.
we were foreordained to do this mission, right? The Lord is using Chad and I right now, and this is what he's told us, as instruments in his hands. What do you think he's trying to teach the people? Especially,
Never go full Tropic Thunder. That is what the Lord is trying to teach. If anything, the Lord is using Chad and Lori as demonstrative of how you don't, build yourself up as a false idol. That being said, sure, Jan.
his people, his church. What do you think he's trying to teach his people right now while he separates the wheat from the tares? He has to have an earthquake. It has to be so.
Wheat from the chaff, you absolute numpty. It's wheat from the chaff. Oh my God. The level of stupid. Nate is an absolute hero, because I couldn't do this. I believe it's a hair thingy that she's double or trebled up, or string.
Detrimental. It has to get everybody's attention. Our case has done that. And what is he doing with that divide? He calls it, you know what Jesus told me? He calls it the great divide. What do you think he's doing with it?
I don't know, but
He's teaching people not to judge.
What in the name of, I sat through the defense that was weaponized ADHD yesterday for the Raw Val case, and he made more cogent sense than this woman just did. So let me get this straight. Okay, now according to Lori was told by God that you're going to lose everything and you're going to be judged. And he is now using the fact that he took everything away from her, which is a euphemism for, the violent taking out of her children, her husband, and her husband's, first wife, to teach people not to judge. I mean, I'm bad at math, but even that don't math. Yeah, also, ma'am, didn't you call people dark? Didn't you, try to extricate Ned, the demonic presence, from, Charles? Oh, I hope Nate Eaton got a big old crumble cookie, or I'm trying to think of what I would want, but I know if he's LDS, he wouldn't take what I want. So I hope he got a really nice dinner after this. His wife splurged and they went out for steak or something, because I'd need comfort food after this.
Don't judge something. You weren't there. You don't know what happened. Don't judge. That's what he's doing.
You know what's really weird, Lori, is actually we don't have to be at a scene of a crime, because there's forensics, there's, other things. So you actually have been judged by a jury of your peers and found to be a murderess multiple times. Congratulations.
And he's separating the wheat from the tares right now in his own house. And he's using Chad and I to do it.
So what if you end up going to Pocatello in a few weeks
Yes.
and spending the next 30 or 40 birthdays
Right.
there behind bars?
That would be God's will, but I'll tell you right now, that's not going to happen.
It's not
It
going
is
to happen.
not going to be 20 or 30 years. No, it is not going to be 20 or 30 years. I will testify to that right now.
So if it's not, how about we meet every year on your birthday and we do a follow-up interview and you can give me the timeline?
Absolutely. I don't have a timeline other than what the prophet has said. Did you watch conference? This last conference? Did you watch it?
Are you able to watch it in here?
No, but I was
did
at
you
the
read it?
prison. At the prison, I was able to listen to it because on your tablet you have AM/FM radio, so you can listen to the
okay.
whole thing. So I got to listen to it the last time before I came. But they did have one. They have one. I think it's a 2023 conference on our tablet here. So I've watched it over and over. But all the prophets, all the apostles, everyone in the LDS church is saying, prepare. Gather Israel on both sides of the veil. I was going to the temple. I went to the temple every day for like 3 years. I was doing all Charles' family's work. I was doing all my family's work. I was gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And Jesus came there. That's his house. And he talked to me and he told me.
What is gathering Israel on both sides of the veil? I am so confabulated. Now, the only thing I can get in my mind is that I do know that there is an LDS practice of baptizing your ancestors. So say you do ancestry and you realize, oh, this person, and this person weren't in the LDS faith. There are, I guess, sacraments or methods by which you can baptize people by proxy. That's all I can figure is that she was baptizing her family members and Charles' family members by proxy so that why am I trying to make logic out of what the hell Lori says? It's about the same as when I try to do trigonometry. I'm not going to get it, and I'm just going to get a headache.
Told me that he needed me to do a mission for him. And this is what we're doing. And the media has turned it all around, but it was supposed to be. You know, there's always a Judas. And I almost used to think of you as the Judas.
Me? Was I on the dark list?
No, but this is what I'm saying. There's a Judas. People think that Judas is a villain. And Judas is not a villain. You know what Judas was? Judas was a vessel. Judas was a vessel for God's plan to come to fruition. And he told me the other day, it's coming to full fruition.
God did.
Yes. So when we are, just like he told Noah, who was what? Steve Carell in the movie, right? So God came there and talked to Steve Carell. Is that true? In the movie.
Yeah.
And the media guy didn't believe him, right? This guy's crazy, right? God didn't talk to him, didn't tell him to do it, didn't tell him to build a boat, buy all those lots, make his wife mad, spend all his money, build a boat, because that whole thing was going to get wiped out, right? So God has told me lots of things, and this is one of the things that he told me. He's using us as instruments in his hands to separate the wheat from the tares.
Did you ever think...
And people are choosing. Do you know how many people have left the church over our case? Which, what does our case have to do with the church? Nothing. Has nothing to do with the church. We're not against the church.
Did you ever think you'd have the title of convicted serial killer?
No, do I?
Well,
She technically could be 4. I think it has to be 3 in a succession with a cooling off period. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know the time difference between Charles and Tylie, and then sadly JJ. But I mean, yeah, 4. She does, basically qualify.
people...
I mean, I guess you could technically say that, but everyone in the world knows that I didn't hurt anyone. I've never hurt anyone in my whole entire life.
Well, you...
No, what you did was worse. What you did was worse, in my opinion. And here, let me tell you why. Because it might not have been your hands, but you saw both of your children being taken away, knowing full well exactly what the hell was going to happen. You knew. And instead of holding those children saying, hey, you know what? God didn't make Abraham actually sacrifice his son. You know, again, in that book called the Bible, some have heard of it, he didn't actually have, Abraham sacrifice his son. He wanted to see the, submission to, instructions that Abraham was willing to do. So I do believe, having watched way too much crime TV, for the FBI criminology department, it's more than 3, and there's generally a cooling off period where the red rummer will either be stalking or identifying another victim. So there's sort of, if you think of BTK, the long periods of inactivity in that case, that's atypical, but definitely, or oh gosh, what is it? It was the Ripper case, not the old one, but the Ripper case in the UK, where there would be a woman, savaged by a hammer or a screwdriver, and then there would be a lull, and then they would find another one, or there would be another one. So that's typically how they do it. I don't know if they've changed the definition.
Years ago, everybody I've talked to, your friends, family, say you were a great mom, so much fun, loved to dance, loved music, loved to travel. You were the light of the party. And here we are in a jail. How did you get from there to here?
God put me here for his purpose. And so you know who he needs? He needs somebody who's the life of the party, somebody who teaches the girls how to work out, somebody who teaches the girls how to have fun and dance and do all those things in this, the worst jail in the country. He needed somebody to come in to the worst jail in the country and strengthen these women. And I'll tell you what happened. We used to have this wonderful lady, and she used to come in, and she's from mental health. She used to come in on Tuesdays, and she'd be down there, and she's blonde, and she's really cute, and she's really fun. She's bubbly like me. And she would come down there, and she'd try to get the girls to work out and give them coping mechanisms and talk to them about stuff like that. And half of the girls didn't like her. They thought she was annoying, and they were waking her up and stuff like that. Because you know why? She wasn't one of them. She wasn't one of them. But you know what I have? I have 7 lifetimes. I have worse punishment.
So let me get this straight, because again, I'm trying to math this out. So God was like, Lori, I'm going to make you do some real cray-cray stuff, but I need you to go in, because eventually I need you to go into max prison as yourself a prisoner to strengthen the spirituality of other women on death row. Okay, Elon, I need Neuralink, but only so I can do a total recall where it will download every one of Lori Vallow's craziness. And if I can see the world for one day, because I don't think I could handle a whole week in her mind, but maybe I would kind of understand. Poor Nate is over here like, do what now?
7th life now?
No. I'm saying I got 5 life sentences in Idaho.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
I've got another one here and another one here
I was
pending.
talking about the multiple probations.
No, I'm talking about
your sentences for
I'm
prison,
sentenced to 7 lifetimes right now, basically.
Now, there, I believe that probations is more of an LDS term, talking about lifetimes. Again, I am not in any way an expertologist, but I do believe that in the LDS faith, your soul can decide to come back to earth multiple times if there are lessons you still need to learn, possibly. So I believe those are called probations, because basically you have more stuff to learn. You have to go back down to earth in order to learn or do things better. I don't know.
Why didn't you tell all this to the police?
So,
why didn't you tell them all this when you were arrested? Explain this to them. God's told me to do this. Give your...
She totally did. She went into that first interview like, Jesus told me that I will be suffering like Job, and you are all the Judas Iscariots. Thank you, Michael Osbrook. I know that I'm probably making total mincemeat of the whole kind of structure, but this is kind of my understanding.
Your defense.
Really? What happens to people when they say God tells them to do something? They lock them up.
Well,
I'm locked up.
well, whatever the reasoning, if you really did think Tylie was responsible for this, why don't you tell the police? She had chronic
Pancreatitis.
pancreatitis. JJ had autism. All of
right.
these things.
All of these things.
Why didn't
She
you tell
was
the-
sexually abused by her dad from the time she was 3 years old and forced by family court to go to him for 10 years. You don't think that was hard on her?
I'm
She
sure-
was in the hospital
Right.
all the time. She
Why
had
not tell the
chronic
police
pain.
this? Why not tell the police all this?
At the very beginning, or what?
Hey, Lori, hi. Speaking as someone with chronic pain, because I really don't like the fact that you're using Tylie and her pain and her trauma, aside from anything that's been proven, chronic pain doesn't make you violent. Now, I will say that I probably had one of my worst nights, not last night, but the night before that. And I don't think Mr. Mo's seen me that out of control in a while. But it typically becomes like an overstimulation, crying, anxiety. For me, it almost presents like an anxiety attack. Or like the thing that struck me when I was kind of looking back at it was kind of the Karen Reed thing. Now, regardless of what you think about the acute grief response, when you are so out of your body in pain, I remember just telling Mr. Mo, I'm sorry. I just need everyone to be quiet. I can't deal with it. Please, please, please just tell everyone to be quiet. I'm so sorry. Because you literally can't think of anything else. So if she's trying to tell me that Tylie in an acute attack of pancreatitis was doing anything but laying down and possibly sobbing, I'm going to have issues. Not to mention, how dare you? Every single other person who has talked about Tylie, from Colby to everyone else her friends, said that she was exceptionally, and I do mean exceptionally, protective of JJ, almost to the point where she was a mini mom. So I would like to say deuces for you taking your daughter's legacy of being a great big sister, almost to the point where you are a second mom, or when she was a second mom to JJ, and making her responsible for this. That is a level of gross and disgusting that even corroded dumpster water would look down on. The little dumpster water puddle would be like, ugh, don't go over there.
What are you talking
Whenever.
about?
I don't think you've ever talked to a cop, have you?
You know when I called the cops? I called the cops 2 times in my life. Guess what happened to me? I called the cops when I was pregnant with Colby, and his dad had beat me up, and I had a black eye, and I was thrown down the stairs, and I was 8 months pregnant. You know what they did? Nothing. They did not help me. And the second time I called the cops is when Colby was 10 years old. And we were at church, and we came in the car home, and he told me how Joe had molested him, and he didn't want the.
Now, again, these are allegations that would be in family court and sealed. And if Colby ever decides to talk about them, I will look into them. But I don't feel it is my spot, and I'm not going to pass judgment on other creators. It's up to every creator. But I will say, unless Colby wants to talk about that, that is an extremely personal thing. But I don't like the fact, again, Colby might not be in a place where he wants to talk about these kind of things. He is the only one that can, give an actual narrative. And for her to so blasé and glibly throw out his potential pain is so gross to me. Again, people are pawns to her. People are things, and they're not real people. She doesn't get anything. And I do wonder, because was she just so good at wearing a mask that everyone thought she was a good mom? Or was she absolutely and completely manipulative and this kind of crazy the entire time? Because I do wonder, where was that split? What was it in Lori's psyche that broke that made her do this? Was it Chad basically feeding her ego to a point where she believed all the delusions? Or was this evil always in her, but well hidden with, underhanded compliments, manipulative behavior, jumping from man to man to man once, the initial Amber Heard love bombing, wore off? These are questions I have that we'll probably never get an answer to, but that have always intrigued me. Yeah, Old Line Red. So we do know from Joe's sister that family services investigated and they were unfounded. But again, I don't know. And those are such incredibly difficult and sensitive things that unless he is willing to talk about them, I don't want to conjecturate, but that is true that, family services found unfounded. But family services also misses a hell of a lot. So, oh, okay. Well, again, I didn't delve deeply into that part of it, mostly because family court documents and things like that are going to be sealed. But I do think that if you look back at Lori's life, you are going to see a history of her never being responsible for stuff, maybe like small things, but then also manipulation, and especially of men. I think that she, if Chad hadn't showed up, she could have been a Diane Downs. That's kind of where I put her in my mind, that her children were expendable for a man. And that's kind of where I put her in the Susan Smith, kind of Diane Downs kind of thing with a culty twist.
Same thing to happen to Tylie. She was only 3 years old. Okay, I called the cops. And guess what I did? I called them and I said, hey, this stuff happened. I don't know what to do. They said, we don't care. Call the county where it happened. So I called that county and I told them the whole story. Like, my son just came to me. He's 10 years old. This happened, blah, blah, blah. They said, we don't care. Call the county where the perpetrator is living. So I called that county.
Again, nothing like this would happen if she had really called and, given them something. They might have called Children's Services to, again, these are not crimes that the cops are going to ignore. They are mandated reporters. So if they have any sort of, acknowledgement or, have been told that something like this happened, they are going to act upon it. Now, whether it goes directly to a special investigator or a part of Children and Family Services, it is going to get investigated. Now, whether Children's Services do a good job is a whole other can of worms.
And I said, this is what happened. And nobody would talk to us. And then the county finally called me back where it had happened, where we had lived previously. And they said, okay, come in tomorrow, bring the kids in, and we'll forensically interview them. Okay? So we did all that. I did everything that the cops asked me to do. And then when I was in there, they said, after they met with Colby, they interviewed him for 45 minutes, they interviewed Tylie, they came out, they said, Colby met all the criteria we use to prosecute, and we're going to prosecute him, and we're going to keep your kids safe. And then they did nothing. And Joe hired a criminal attorney, and they did nothing. And he never got indicted, and nobody ever even looked him in the eye and said, did you rape your children? And for 10 years, the judge told me that if I didn't take Tylie to him every other weekend, and
again, this is what we like to call obfuscation. We're not going to talk about what I did. We are going to go on these detours of everyone else who was mean to me and things like that. Tylie told the guardian ad litem that my mom told me to tell these things. I love my dad. I will, again, I think Lori wasn't the perfect mom like people project. I think in hindsight, people who claim that she was a wonderful mother are ignoring the small manipulations she used to do. I think this has always been part of her personality, and it wasn't until she got, again, the adoration of a dork, Chad Dorkbell, that she was empowered. Again, Chad basically worshipped her like a goddess and told her that she was translated. And all of her darker personality was magnified. But I think if people actually, not to mention, her family is just all the weird. Like Adam seems to be the only one that's been able to get away from the absolute weirdness that is the Cox family. So I don't know if anyone's done a deep dive into them, but there's a lot of weirdness going on there.
And 30 days in the summer and every Thursday night that she would put me in jail. If I was late for one visitation of dropping her off at a dad who was raping her in the middle of the night, that I would be put in jail if I didn't abide by that.
Did you have anything to do with Joe's death?
No.
Did
Joe-
Alex?
No. We didn't even know. We were living in Hawaii. We had come back. Tylie was forced to go to him for 10 years by the courts. Hated it. Came home and cried, screamed, kicked, hit Colby, hit Cole, hit Zach, scratched him, yelled, threw things through the walls, was a nightmare, had night terrors, never slept at night. Tylie never went to sleep before 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so you have a child who is outwardly displaying all of these things. Hey, Miss Perfect Mom, did you ever get her into therapy? Did you ever get her into, anywhere where a therapist or someone who is a mandated reporter yet again could, document these maladaptive behaviors? And so now we're claiming that Tylie's rage came from her father and not her being upset with, Charles. Again, the absolute unmitigated gall to again, let's say, and let's give Lori the benefit of the doubt that everything she is saying is correct. 10 years, my behind would be there every day at the courthouse. She doesn't want to go. She has written this. Don't make her go. This is happening. I've taken evidence of this, this, and this. This is so maddening.
She's 5 years old. She can't go to sleep. I have to stay in bed with her till 3 o'clock in the morning, rubbing her back because she can't sleep, because bad people wake you up in the middle of the night to do bad things to you, Mommy. And so Tylie was a nightmare. Charles thought she was a brat. I didn't discipline her. Then I was in the hospital with her, watching her scream and writhe in pain while she's on morphine because it doesn't work.
I've interviewed several jurors. You may have seen the interviews.
I haven't seen any juror interviews, none.
And-
I have no access. I'm in here 23 hours a day. I'm in max security. We don't have access to it.
Lori, you are exactly where you belong. And it's unfortunate that our juries, you know what? I strike that. You are benefiting greatly that we have evolved to a country that gives you due process, gives you the presumption of innocence, however hard that is in the media age. You were given a fulsome trial. Your defense didn't put on a defense. Your defense didn't do anything. And a jury of your peers adjudicated you guilty. Because if we didn't have that, you would be under the prison. I don't think you understand how lucky you are that you did this in America. And even if our justice system is flawed, we still have due process. And you didn't end up, with some Wild West justice.
Anything.
Well,
So I
they've
haven't
said-
seen anything for a year and a half since I've been over here.
They've said they were disappointed that they wanted to hear from you, that you
Yeah.
didn't have a defense, especially in Idaho.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If I get up on the stand and Trina Kay's sitting there, or
Rob
what's her
Wood.
name? Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, right? And they're sitting there. Are they going to let me tell Tylie's story on the stand? You know they're not. They're going to object every 2 seconds.
If it's relevant to
They're
She can't, Lori couldn't say what Tylie told her. That would be hearsay. And all of this would have to be backed up by documentation, which is why if you are in a situation where your child feels unsafe and they're going to visitation, you take them to mental health people. You have other witnesses that are around that can bolster your story. I don't know. Again, it was heartbreaking for me to even think about Tylie, so I didn't quite go deep dive into her. And I'm just a redhead who babbles on the internet. I don't have, psychology degree. I'm just, like I said, I'm a people watcher. And all of the grace to Nate, because I would have said, keep Tylie's name out your mouth by this point.
case.
I'm writing it out. No, they won't, because they don't want me to tell that story, because it's opposite of their narrative. It crushes their narrative.
But
it crumbles their narrative.
But
it's never going to be what it is.
As a defense attorney,
Yeah.
you present your defense. So you would have witnesses that would come in and would testify to the things you're saying and would give
I
evidence
love it,
to
Nate.
that.
You're just as naive as I was, and I love it, because guess what? I found out as
No, what happened, Lori, is that like Sarah Boone, you were trying to bring all this extraneous stuff. You were trying to get Nate on the stand to discredit him as a media person. The problem is, Lori, you weren't naive, or maybe you were naive in the beginning, but what you were trying to bring in was not able to be brought in, and your lawyers were telling you, no, you can't bring in this, you can't bring allegations in against, this, you can't do that. She's not naive, she's just stupid, and she's probably been told this, like Sarah Boone was told this, by multiple lawyers, that you can't bring in this stuff. Yeah, sea salt and driftwood. You have to be open to therapy, and in my humble opinion, Lori doesn't want her mental pathways changed. Lori would have to be open to the fact that maybe some of the ways that she copes or deals with people, need to be shifted. And I don't think Lori would be open to that change. I think therapy works, when you have an openness and a willingness to do the work and learn your new coping skills or whatever you're supposed to be learning in therapy. I don't think Lori thinks she's wrong in anything she's done in her entire life, because she has the rubber stamp, however delusionally, that everything she has done has been preordained by a higher power to whatever. The court ordered her to let Colby's mattress be tested for any sign of SA. That was supposed to have happened in the bed, and she denied. There was no evidence. Yeah. And I do dislike that she is, again, if you give her all the grace, splashing Tylie and Colby's, abuse everywhere. And if it was proven no, and she didn't assist in every way to get, this evidence out, and it was a custody ploy, then to put her children through all the coaching that she would have to do in order to do this is, again, gross and disgusting. And maligning a man who is dead, who cannot defend himself, is also gross.
as a defense attorney, this is what happened with Judge Boreski. This is what happened. They don't let you put on a defense. Do you know how many motions I had on, or not motions, do you know how many exhibits I had on and get ready for us to present our case for the first trial?
How many?
We had 33 exhibits. We put them up there. Trina Kay went up there. She gets to look at all your exhibits, right? This is how it works in law. She gets to
You know, Lori, you wouldn't be so effing shocked if you had one of these people that I don't know went to school to be a lawyer, because they know that all of your exhibits can be objected to. This is not a conspiracy against you, Lori. It's the fact that you are ignorant to the rules. Something strikes me as hinky about it, but I don't know.
to look and see what all our things are, what we're putting up. Guess what I had? I had about 5 interviews with one of the cops who said, I have to get Lori on something. I have to find something to charge her with. I have him saying this on video.
Which cops?
Okay, Detective Moffat. Guess what happens? So I have 4 of those are my exhibits. I'm waiting for Detective Moffat to get on the stand. The state says they're gonna put on Detective Moffat. Guess who they don't put on at all?
Moffat.
Detective Moffat. They go around you, and then the judge didn't let me put in one exhibit, not one.
What if you had
He didn't
waived-
let me put one exhibit on,
What if
not
you had
one.
waived your right to a trial, though, and given your legal team another year or so to go through all of that? Don't you think that would have helped your case?
No, not at all. Because guess what my team said? They said he wouldn't have let us put it on either. There's so many jobs, so much political aspiration going on behind the scenes in a high profile case. There is no way in heaven that they were going to let me get up there and win as a pro per client. Because you know what? It's like a virus in here. Do you know these girls that are treated so bad by their defense teams that are making $1.5 million a year while they sit here for 8 years, 10 years waiting to go to trial? There's girls in here that have been in here for 10 years. Do you know what happens when you have a toothache in this jail? They pull out your teeth. So tell me how it's not prejudicial for you to go into trial with 5 of your teeth missing and you look like a homeless.
Lori, are you pissed off you couldn't get veneers in prison? Is that where we're going with this? I couldn't get veneers in prison. Dear Lord. What? Where? I am genuinely speechless. We have gone from I am Job, the Nephites, to they pull off your teeth and I would look homeless. No one cares how you look, Lori. No one. And I do mean no one wants to see your hatchet face impression.
Person, and the jury's there judging you, right? And because you've been sitting in a jail that doesn't have any dental for you for 8 years waiting to go to trial.
You mentioned a virus. Were you really sick?
Oh, I was so sick. Yeah, I really was sick.
You weren't putting it on a little bit in the wheelchair?
Not at all. I couldn't
putting your
even
head on the table in the courtroom? You were really feeling sick.
I tried so hard not to throw up in court. And Jeff can attest. So Jeff had the same virus I had. We had been working till like 8 o'clock at night getting ready for trial. The next day when I went Thursday, he calls in sick. He's sick in bed, can't lift his head, he's throwing up. Okay? Friday at trial, we were picking a jury. I threw up at lunch and told the judge, I was like, oh no, I must have the same thing Jeff had. Jeff missed my whole trial because he was sick for 10 days in bed. Was so sick. I've been incarcerated for 5.5 years. I've only ever been sick one other time, and that was like a really severe headache that I thought may have been COVID or something for like 10 days. I've never been this sick. And you don't have any access to anything. Like, you don't have access to medicine or food or anything that you need. I was so sick. I had an infection. I had to get on antibiotics. And the medical here is...
Jeff might be her private investigator, or I think her assistive counsel was a woman, and we've only gotten to the first trial with Charles. I believe that Jeff might be her private investigator who was going out and getting maybe interviews or things like that for her trial.
Ridiculously horrible. They did a test on me. We're supposed to give me antibiotics. They didn't give it to me for a week. I didn't start them until a week later than I should have started on them.
Do you feel bad about it?
Hey, Lori, here's the thing though. You unalived your children, so I really don't care if you don't get some bacitracin for, a little cut, or, they don't give you antibiotics. I'm kind of okay with that at the moment. Like, I don't know what you want me to do, where you would like me to dig sympathy out for you. I don't really care.
Anything that's happened? Do you have any remorse? Any apology? Anything?
Bad about anything that's a really broad question.
It is a broad question.
Bitch, what he's trying to say is your kids were taken and unalived with your full effing knowledge. He is trying to be a gentleman and broadly give you the chance to maybe atone for some little bit of the destruction and pain that you have caused everyone in this case. I, for one, would like to shout out Kay Woodcock, who did a wonderful job having to deal with your latent French behind, asking her dumbass questions after she went through the fact that she found out about her brother being shot by your brother through flippin' flapjack Google. So, yeah, or you texted Charles's sons to tell them that he was gone and then took the watches that were supposed to be theirs and gave them Casio watches from Walmart. So maybe there's a lot of things you could be sorry for instead of smiling like a ridiculous Muppet.
About the past 6 years, Any? Do you feel bad about?
Do I have
those?
bad feelings about anyone?
Not
Or-
bad feelings. Do you personally feel bad or feel some remorse for the victims in these cases?
None of the people are victims. So
Are you the victim? Is that
What? What? All right, let's continue. I am so beyond done with this woman.
no, I'm not saying I'm a victim at all. I'm not saying that at all.
No, you have said, and every single one of your statements in the 32 minutes we've watched is how you are a victim. You have self-victimized yourself. You have anointed yourself as, which is kind of dual. It is interesting duality because you are a translated being close to God with all of these translated, foreknowledge of everything. And you are also a perpetual victim who has been done by and, narratives made. So one or the other, ma'am. Pick a lane.
I'm an instrument in God's hands. The victims that you call victims are not victims. Tammy died of natural causes.
the coroner disagrees with that. The coroner
Which
said-
coroner are you talking about? The one the
Brenda
state put
died.
on?
Brenda died, the county
Okay.
coroner,
Okay.
who said she was asphyxiated. So aren't her kids victims?
Okay, no. Do her kids feel like they're victims? No, they don't. They understand the truth. But let me
What
tell you
about her
something.
siblings?
Let me tell you something about Brenda Dye for a second. Let's go back to that because you said the coroner, and that is not even a true
She
statement.
originally ordered it as natural causes, you're right.
Oh, thank you, Nate. A
But-
fact,
but
a
then
true
they-
fact.
then-
Oh my God. Thank goodness Nate was there because this attitude would have gotten my sassy out. This attitude would have effing broke me. These last statements, I'd have been hard pressed to keep my Jesus within me. As the Southern, like y'all are testing my Jesus. Jesus would have fled and he would have been replaced by table flipping Jesus.
And they
Okay.
exhumed her body the day before Alex died, which
Okay.
looks suspicious with Alex's death. They exhumed her body, and they said no, she had the marks.
Did you hear what you just said?
What?
Looks suspicious. Who exhumed her? Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death?
So you're saying
Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death? What was the explanation for exhuming her when she had a natural death from the coroner? The coroner said it. Why?
because you and Chad were under investigation, and they thought that you all might have killed her.
Why? Because of Heather Daybell and what she said at the very beginning and called you up to say? That's
Heather-
exactly where you're getting
Heather
it.
Daybell
That's
did
where
not
you're
call me.
getting
Heather
it.
Daybell
I
did-
didn't say she called you. She called you through
I
Detective
didn't talk to
Hope.
Detective Hope at all.
Did you talk to Hermosillo?
I don't remember talking to Hermosillo. The tip I got when you were in Hawaii was from none of those people.
It was before we went to Hawaii. It's before you went to Hawaii. How'd you get a tip
We-
before you showed up in
we-
Hawaii?
we-
You obviously had a tip before you
We
showed
found
up
out
in
about
Hawaii.
this.
Y'all, I had a deep and long conversation with my youngest, most feral, about the fact that choosing to become a dinosaur when you grow up might not be fiscally or, theoretically possible. And he made more sense in that 45 minutes when I had to talk to him about the reality of becoming a dinosaur than this woman has made. And if you don't, I swear to God, stop mugging for the camera, you absolute numpty.
Case
Yeah.
when the police sent out a news release. And then somebody random, I still to this day don't know, and I swear to you, to this day, we got a Facebook message from an anonymous account with a GPS location of where you and Chad were. I
Someone
swear to
did
you.
not. No, you were in an interview with someone. I did see a tiny little piece of an interview. I think you had Hermosillo and someone in an interview, and they were saying, didn't someone call you up and say, this is going to be the biggest story of your life, Nate Eaton?
Oh, a police detective did tell me that, yeah. But it's not.
Who was it?
It's not the people that you named. It's a source. So
You're not
that-
going to tell me your source, but you know everything about me,
Back
but
to
you're
the
not going to
question.
tell me your source.
There's a lot I don't know about you, Lori. Back to the question though. You don't feel bad. You're saying none of these people are victims.
I feel
Kay
bad,
and Larry
of
aren't
course.
victims. Brandon's not a victim.
No. No. I'm not saying that people haven't had hard things happen to them in their life. Everyone has hard things happen to them in their life, right? The judicial system plays up the victim thing pretty big, right? We've seen it happen.
No, everyone who has a heart and has a soul and hasn't sold it to Satan generally feels bad when children are robbed of the opportunity to live out their lives. When we see that these children were covered in plastic and burned beyond recognition, dismembered and shot. Yeah, we all tend to have a really big, emotional reaction and would call them victims. Yeah, that's what most people do, Lori. But continue to giggle and act like none of this matters. Continue to scribble out your scriptures and your babbling and your thought pattern. And hopefully we can use it the FBI can use it, the feds can use it to stop the next crazy ass heifer who's going to come out and say they're God's DJ.
The people who lost their children, I lost my children. I lost them.
But people,
All right, nope, I need to take a break, and we are sending her to my favorite alternate source of where we send these absolute crap spackles.
It's a curse, we've got room for the wicked, the cruel, and the worst. If you lie, if you cheat, if your soul's made of bile, you're bound for the fangs and the venom in style. Oh, one-way ticket to Snake Island. Oh, where the contents, less cowards and gaslighters go. No anchor, no lifeboat, no tearful goodbyes. Just kissing and coming in cold-blooded skies. Backstab your friend.
So for those of you who don't know or are new or lurkers, there is actually an island in Brazil that has the most snakes per square mile. You are not actually allowed to go on there because there are so many venomous snakes. But I think it's the perfect place to send Lori if Lord Chippy does not happen. And I've already played that one. Yeah, the absolute cloak of victimhood, like, I lost my children. No, you didn't. You chose for them to go. Again, if we believe Lori, she had no idea what was going on when Alex took her kids away those nights or those times. Sure, Jan, sure.
because of what you did.
What did I do to them?
You arranged with Alex to conspire to kill them.
No, I did not.
And
Absolutely
Chad.
not. Absolutely
Did you
not.
know that they were in Chad's
Absolutely
backyard? Or
not.
did I?
No, I did not know that. I did not know where they were. Alex told me that he was put them in a safe place. That's what he
So
told me.
did you find out at the court, at the first trial? Is that the first time you'd seen those autopsy photos?
Yeah, I hadn't ever seen him. I never looked at him before that.
Okay.
Because that's not how I picture my children. I know where they are in heaven. I know what they're doing. They have come to visit me. So
All right. Okay. She called for it. She asked for it. Let's go. Listen, you absolutely ridiculous 52-year-old woman wearing a ponytail that would look great in a 3-year-old. How dare you? How dare you talk about your children? I have 6 children. If I lost one child, I don't know that I'd be able to function ever again in my life. And I have known people that have lost children, and they are never the same. Never. Not 1 minute does their life go by that isn't touched by the grief that they still carry for that lost child. Whether their child was born sleeping, or they lost them, early in infancy, or they lost them to addiction at the age of 30. And there is a sound that comes out of good moms that I have the misfortune of hearing when they realize that their children is gone. And it is deep, and it is gut-wrenching, and it tears your soul the fuck apart. It is a wail from the depths of their souls. And if you have never heard it and you would like to hear it, unfortunately, the Jose Ibarra case, there is body cam footage of when the mom learns that the daughter is no longer alive. And the sound that comes out of her is one that I've heard in person that I never want to hear again. So the disconnect, the utter disconnect and disrespect that you show to everyone who has adopted JJ and Tylie into their heart, that is terrified and horrified that a mother could do this. keep scribbling, keep writing, and I hope that one day the phone calls are going to stop, Lori. The interviews are going to stop. You are going to be forgotten in an 8x8 cell that you get out of 20 or 1 hour a day. And in 10 years, in 15 years, no one's going to remember you. But I will try, and I know others will try, to keep your children alive, to keep the victims, the real victims, the ones you can't see, alive. But you are going to continue to get older. You are going to have no access to cosmetics or anything. And the one thing that you always, counted on using and as currency and as an ability to con people is going to go away. You are going to be old and gray and forgotten. That's my wish for you. Because I can't say what I really wish for you allegedly in Minecraft on real live real live stream.
I don't see them as bones. If anybody dies and you go to a cemetery and you dig them up 9 months later, you're not going to like what you find. It's not going to be
They're
pretty.
not going to look like that, Lori. They're not going to
I'm
look
saying
like Tylie.
anybody isn't going to look like that. I'm saying once your spirit leaves your body and goes to heaven, okay? Because I died, right?
Okay, so this is how she's divorced herself from any responsibility, because no matter how it happened or the absolute betrayal of the mother and maternal bond, they're in heaven now. They're doing, they're being their best people in heaven. So whatever she did doesn't matter. What a frightening and absolutely devoid from reality thought process. And my pause game is finally on. Also, Lori, I see the mustache. You didn't quite get it off.
Right? When I was giving birth to Tylie, I died. And my spirit left my body. And guess what happened? When you're out of your body and you're your real self and your eternal self and who you are, you could care less what happens to your body. I've had that experience. Chad's had that experience. There's others that have had that experience. So the body dies.
I must say it, but dear Lord, why didn't you take her? I know it seems like you had a return policy on Lori back here on Earth, but honest to God, if you had just taken her, that would have been awesome. I mean, she seemed to be happy as a spirit ghost person, so I'm kind of, again, you could have just taken her.
Everyone's dying, right? We're all going to die. Our bodies are all going to go back to the earth where they were from, and we carry on, we move on. So my children are in their...
Please start playing Kansas as dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. Your logic makes no sense, and your ability to divorce yourself from any responsibility is quite interesting to part of me and quite abhorrent to most of me.
Eternity, they're doing well. They're happy. They're moving on. They don't want me to be sad. They came to me because they don't want...
Okay, we're going back because Nate's face is all of
They're
us
happy.
right now. Nate's face is like, do what now? Nate's face is our spirit animal right now. Lori, the job of children is not to make their mother feel secure. The job of a mother is to make sure that their children feel secure. I don't know who twisted this, but a child has no obligation to make a parent feel anything. The parent is supposed to engender feelings of safety in the child.
Moving on. They don't want me to be sad. They came to me because they don't want me to be sad. They said, Mom, you didn't do anything wrong.
I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that say I shouldn't have interviewed you. Well, they don't know I've interviewed you, but they say that you don't deserve a platform because of what you've done, what you've been found guilty of. Do they have a point?
In this unfair judicial system, anybody could be found guilty of anything. And I would tell to the people, I would say, be careful who you're judging, because anybody could end up in orange. You could be living your little life in the suburban bubble like I was, and anybody could end up in orange. anybody because they can turn this on anybody. There's women in here, beautiful, smart, intelligent women that have had their children die and their family tragedies, and they're not crimes. And the state has turned them into crimes, and they're not crimes. And what I got accused of and convicted of, just like the 3 Nephites, what crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? What crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? I'm in good company. I'm in good company, and in heaven I will be in their company. And I didn't do anything.
I'm not a geographologist or geographerologist, and I'm not a spiritual geographer or cartographer, but Lori, I'm kind of guessing you're not. I mean, I have a feeling you might be going, I'm just throwing that out there. Now, I'm going to have to research who the 3 Nephites are, or I want to say Nephilim, but I know that's wrong. Nephites. I think Nephilim are more of a standard Christianity sort of construct. That being said, I am going to have to learn who the 3 Nephites are. I doubt it. Again, she wants to make herself the main character of everything. So I doubt it specifically, because she would have traded on that particular trauma for years and years if it had really happened. And she would also, if it did happen, I think there was a level of resentment that continued to happen when Tylie was, growing up. If Lori did, in fact, have a difficult pregnancy or a difficult delivery, I think that she would have always resented Tylie for putting her through that. That's just my 2 cents. Oh my goodness. She is so, just,
That deserves this kind of punishment. But God did want me here. He did want me in here with these women. And He wanted me to lift and strengthen women and uplift them in these family tragedies. There's women in.
oh my God, I can't do any more of this woman. But I sure hope that her and Sarah Boone get together with everything that Jesus has told them, with, the Sudoku of the pottery that makes it gold. I mean, good night, nurse. Well, thank you, Nate Eaton, for giving us this interview. And I think that while I can understand while some people might disagree with the fact that he gave her a platform, I think this really highlights how absolutely off kilter she is, how absolutely divorced from reality her thought pattern is. It is startling how she allegedly processes her life, and the lens through which she sees it is absolutely insane. But I will say, I think it's the only way she can function. I think if she looked bare bones deep down at what happened, what actually happened to her children, to Charles, to Tammy, it would be a reckoning not unlike a complete end time for her entire personality, the narrative that she has sold herself on. I don't think that her psyche could deal with it. I think it's very much like Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone has this constructed outer self that she believes that she projects, when all she projects is thunder cunt. But she has this construct of herself as, a Christian, beacon of hope and fighter for justice. And it is really interesting to see that type of personality mirrored both in Sarah Boone, but also in Lori. Now, that being said, I have nothing further to give you. I think I've given you enough fireworks of rantiness. I am sending you, look, y'all, I have given up. I don't know how to say his name, but he does a lot of live views and it starts with an I. I am sending you over there. I am not attempting to say his name. I will write it down in the stream so I don't butcher it hellaciously like I normally do. I'm like, nope. He actually, the last time I sent people out to him, I so butchered his name that someone sent him a clip of, oh, and there's not an L in there. But I felt incredibly terrible. So I'm sending you over there. It looks like there are some floods that are going on in Texas. And if you want to watch that, you are totally free to go over there and let them know that I sent you. If not, wander the interwebs as you should. And thank you so much, Nate Eaton, for all of your coverage from the beginning, for bringing, Tylie and JJ, and they're being tickle. So, ickle. And then look, I will figure it out in a minute. That being said, thank you, Nate Eaton, for doing this. I think that as much as we don't want to give Lori a platform, this is the crazy we're dealing with. This is the delusion that we're dealing with. And this is the monster that, needs to be put out. So while I think he didn't give her a whole chance to do a whole bunch of narrative, he did try to hold her feet to the fire, but she's incapable of seeing herself as anything but the victim. But, again, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and letting Lori be Lori is going to be the best thing. So I am sending you guys off. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for sharing your time with me as we all, collectively went, huh? About a zillion times. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire, because Lori is out there writing a book. God help us all.